Welcome to the Dice Tower, a series of video reviews about board and card games. Here are your hosts.
Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Chris Yee.
I'm Roy Candy.
And I'm Mike DeLisio.
Today we're taking a look at a game unlike most other games, I think is a fair assessment of it, and that's Mind Management. It's from a new company called Off the Page, and it's based on Mind Management, the graphic novels, or a comic, I guess, graphic novels, which I had not really heard of before playing this game.
I didn't even know it was
I didn't know it was a comic.
Nope.
Now, just to clarify, once I found that out, and I think after our first game, I went and read the entire series, which I actually reviewed on Board Game Breakfast. I enjoyed the series quite a bit, but even after playing the game, I wouldn't have been able to tell you what was going on per se. But it is a one versus all game, and one player is an evil. They're evil recruiter trying to get people to join Mind Management, which is a bunch of mentalists who are wreaking havoc across the world. And everyone else are rogue mind agents who are trying to stop the recruiter. I keep playing myself, but that's usually because I play
If
recruiter.
you're the recruiter, you are the recruiter.
It's just rolling off your tongue.
No, so the recruiter is actually trying to get more people to join their evil organization, and the rogue agents are trying to stop him. This is very much exactly what happened in the graphic novel, although there are no spoilers in here much that I can tell for the stuff that happened in the graphic novel. They show you all these characters and stuff, but it follows it very seriously. But there are some spoilers in this game. If you care about that sort of thing, I will endeavor to show very few of them right now. Okay, folks, I'm going to be going over some of the rules for this. There's a training mission and a full mission. I'm going to kind of give you the idea of how the game's played without showing you everything. But basically the concept here is one person is the mind management recruiter, and they are going around and trying to recruit people while at the same time avoiding detection from the other agents. The good guys, for lack of a better word, are going to be playing with 4 agents, which they'll be starting in various spots around the board. The mind management players' movement will always be kept hidden here, although they have some of these immortal players that they'll be able to put on the board. The mind management manager player, they're going to start any spot they want. They'll write 1 there, and that means they were there on turn 1, or at 1 o'clock actually. And at the beginning of the game, they're going to make their first moves up to 5. So I might go 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's the deal. I'm able to move adjacent, not diagonal, but you can never move to the same space twice. The only exception is, if I was here 6, 7, I can move to or from this park here diagonally. So I could go 8 and then put 9 here. But you can see 10, 11, 12. And you need to get to 16. If you do that, you'll win. If you get to 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you win without being caught. Or if you recruit different people. Every spot on the board has 2 features in it, and these are features by which mind management controls people, whether those features are confusion idols, hallucinogenic torches, wish fountains, reconnaissance parrots, subliminal billboards, etc. Like for here's a subversion bookstore. At the beginning of the game, the mind manager player is going to draw 3 cards, and so you can see here that I have the bus here, which is the dream bus, and here I have the flux coffee shop, and here I have the confusion idol. So those are my 3 symbols, and I'm trying to move around the board. There's 5 of each symbol and land in spots with those symbols, because whenever I do so, I'm going to be able to recruit an agent to my side, and I need to recruit a certain number of these agents to win the game. There's a timer to the game, and in this timer you'll take the first 5 moves, like I said at the very beginning of the game. Then there's going to be rounds of the game. And in each round of the game, the mind manager player is going to secretly move 1 spot, and then 2 of the 4 agents will move. Then the mind manager moves again, then the other 2 agents move. We reset, and we keep doing that. You notice these are red here, though, and that's because whenever there's a red, you need to show how many agents you recruited. So they know that you went through 2 spots that match the 3 different cards that you have as a player. And again, if you get too many of these, and it's done here, that means on these 2 turns, I got 2. On my first 5 turns, I got 2. If I put 1 here, I would get 1 on this turn. So players can use that to help deduce where I am. Each side, both the recruiter and the rogue agents, are going to have cards that they slide onto the board that show what you do. The recruiter, on their turn, is going to move one space. Or they can use this token here. When they use that token, they're able to use their special ability. At the beginning of the game, they're going to pick one of these two recruiters, and they can jump 2 spaces diagonally, or they can move 2 spaces orthogonally, again, jumping. It's called it's a mind slip token. You have to spend that. The players know you spent it. In fact, the players will, at the beginning of the game, have put another one of these on the board in a spot of their choosing, and if you ever go through that spot, you can use that special ability twice. After the recruiter does that, they're also going to be able to move one of their immortals on the board. And the immortals can move diagonally. And immortals, they're trying to get the immortals are going to have some cards that are immortal recruiting that are the same symbols that the recruiter is using, and if they have these cards up, players will know these cards are not what the immortals, that what the main character is looking for. But if the immortals, if there's 2 immortals on this parrot, or if there's 2 immortals here on top of suggestive graffiti, they can remove this card and recruit an agent with that. So the recruiter has 2 ways. They're secretly recruiting as they move around the map and land on their 3 card symbols, or they can use their immortals to do some blatant recruiting. Agents also can move, but they can move 2 spaces. They can move faster because they're trying to catch the recruiter. But they have different regular actions they can take. They can pick a feature as long as an immortal is not on one of these features. So let's say there was no immortal on a parrot, then they could say, have you ever been on a parrot? So depending on where I am in the thing, so let's say I've only up to space 8 here. I would look at all the spaces I move through and I'd say, okay, I was on a parrot at space 4. That's the only time I've been on a parrot, so I have to put a footprint on that space on the board. The players don't know when I was at that spot, but they know I was there. If there's multiple spaces with a parrot, I can pick one of those. For example, in fact, even in this thing here, I didn't notice I was in a parrot space at number 7 too. So I'd pick one of those 2. But if there already was a footprint space here, then I would have to put one here. And they can use my putting out footprints or not putting out footprints to again deduce where I've been. And an agent, if they're in the spot with a footprint, they can reveal, and in that case, I'm going to have to tell them exactly when I was in that location. They'll use one of these things, and I'll say, okay, I was there at number 4. So now the agents have some exact information where I say I was in that spot at number 4. Now, players are going to be using that to figure out where I am. In fact, an agent, if they think they're on the same spot as me, can capture me, as long as there's not an immortal there, and the agents will win the game. And there's a lot of these little discs here that players can even use. You use the white side of it. I might say, okay, well, we know for sure he was in this spot from turn 1 to 6. You can use these to put anywhere on the board. There's a few more things in the game. Players can push immortals around and try to figure out, make the player discard cards to figure out what one of the cards is that the recruiter has behind their board, making them reveal it and making that particular thing not work for them anymore. At the beginning of the game, you're going to put out some of these chaos things around the board. The players will take turns putting these out, and you simply just can't move through those, giving some change to the board. But eventually, the player's going to catch the recruiter, which is how they win. The recruiter survives to 4 o'clock, which is one of the ways the recruiter wins, or the recruiter recruits enough recruits in which they win. Those are the basic rules. The shift system is included with this game, and it comes like this, and there are 2 sides for this. And what this is extra hidden modules, sort of, that players are going to pick based on who wins. So if the agents win, then Mind Management is going to take number 1 here. They're going to open it up. I'm not going to open and reveal it, but you can hear there's a few more pieces in, a little comic, and on the back of that comic it shows you the pieces in here, and some extra rules that will help the recruiter. If the recruiter wins, then the agents will open up their number 1. And then if the recruiter wins again, they open up number 2. And so, depending who has won, more of these will be opened up as the game goes by. And once they're all opened up, you can just use them as modules. They're going to add various things. There are things like allies. This is from the base game, but an ally is a once per game use of an action. Each of the players in the normal game is a special character. So we start with these characters. Perhaps more characters will show up over the course of this, or more bad guys. Each of these characters have special abilities. Some are free actions, some you use as an action, and they're used to help narrow down where the recruiter is. But this is 14 different modules, 7 that help both sides. The game comes with an insert which is a little confusing because I can never remember what goes where, but it comes with 4 pens and it comes with all these pieces. The pieces for the modules are actually kept in the module place, and these are pretty nice game trays here. They snap right into this, and this whole thing closes up. Honestly, if this module thing wasn't in the game, it would not take up that much space. The rule book is written very nicely. You can see there's green and red here. Green is for the training mission. They recommend that you start with the training mission. I highly agree. Basically, it cuts out the immortals and just has you go around trying to catch the other person. That really helps you get started in the game. And then all the rules for the shift system, all the rules for the modules are in those themselves. There's art throughout the game, and there's also, they write all over the place. I almost found it distracting where they're writing and acting like they're crossing things out and redacted and all that sort of stuff. But the component quality here is really high. Okay, so let's talk about the components first. Now I mentioned here, a little bit. I think we can all agree the components themselves are really well done. Nice wooden pieces. Yep. Where I think there might be some argument would be on the art. And the art is 100% the same art from the comic.
Gotcha.
I hate it. But I love the comic, but I hate the art. This is... I'm not calling the art bad. It's stylized art for sure.
Yes.
Right.
But it does nothing for me. I don't know what you all think about it.
Well, I think it's instructive that as we were playing it, someone else walked up and went, "Oh, no." It does not inspire confidence in the game system.
I disagree. I like it. I like it a lot.
Okay,
I really do. To me, I don't disagree with what you were saying. I disagree that it's uninspiring. I think it actually is a really good-looking board. I like that it feels like you're inside of an indie comic. It really, to me, has some of those kind of iconic indie comic book touches. To me, it works. I understand very much that this is going to be divisive. I mean, I understand the people that don't like it because it is very, very iconoclastic. Is that the right word? It doesn't look like anything else necessarily other than certainly style.
Which I'm not trying to squash at all. Right? I think that you should be able to make the different kinds of art. I'm just saying on a personal level, I didn't care for it.
Yeah. I think for me, I didn't mind the art too much. I didn't think it was amazing art by far, but I was able to see past it into the game mechanics and things like that. I don't think it detracted too much from the game. The board does seem a bit busy here and there, but once you understand how the game works, you're like, okay, cool, well, I'm looking for this, I'm looking for that. And I don't know, I found it a little bit charming with all the different art pieces on the board.
Yeah, and I also like little artistic touches like the cards not being your standard game cards. Basically, like if you are the mastermind and you're figuring out what your kind of icon is, it looks like some type of almost like an advertisement, right? And the palm tree will be circled. I think that's really cool. I think that kind of pulls you in to the world that's there.
Well, speaking of the world, so none of you have read the comic.
No.
Not at all.
Did the theme make sense to you at all? Did it make you want to learn more about it?
I felt like the theme made sense until we got to like the advanced game with the immortals and all that stuff. I'm just kind of like, okay, there's these things moving around, and there's a lot of special abilities and things like that in the game, which I guess might show a little bit more when you know the theme and like, okay, I understand what this means, and that's why this character has that ability and that. Because you said it fit very thematically with all of that stuff once you know some more of that theme.
I think the board is very busy looking, but as soon as you learn, hey, this is just a grid with like 2 things of each.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the issues fade away, but I still don't look. I just look at it and I see a grid with red asset and purple asset on it, and then I see a grid with yellow asset and green asset on it, and you're just looking for the different things. The theme didn't make sense to me, and I agree with Roy. It actually made less sense as stuff got added in because I didn't know what was happening. but I still think it was fun.
Yes.
The theme didn't do much for me because I didn't have any frame of reference. The game didn't really necessarily, I think, push a theme, but the art made me want to look at the comic. So
I think from having read the comic, I think that if you like the comic, which I think is very well done, if you like the comic, I think it would raise your enjoyment of the game by a point or more.
Wow.
I think
wow.
it's that strong of a theme. Like everything, I mean, I looked at everything in the game. I opened up everything and looked at all. It all works. It's all this. Oh, I understand why they did that because of what happened in this issue. I mean, they have
nice.
stuff points in this game that go throughout the whole series, even stuff from the
Nice.
end. Again, not without spoiling it, I think.
Sure.
But I remember when they were trying to do this or this person's special ability, because the comic is essentially a bunch of people with superpowers, but they're all from their mind. Like I could talk to Mike and make him go punch Z just by talking to him. You know,
I'm going to keep that in mind.
Mentalist.
Okay, so taking out of that's how the game looks. This is a one versus all hidden movement game, which oddly enough, there's not a ton of these games out there.
Not really.
So how would you compare this to other ones? Is it the same? Where is it different?
I thought the puzzly aspect, it felt very different. I really enjoy the genre of hidden movement. I think it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of these games that I actually enjoy. I love trying to puzzle it out on one side or just trying to figure out how to hide as the other side. And this one was really cool because you were trying to go after these different assets and be in different spots. But I think this is one that also gives you some interesting ways to gather information. Like you can figure out exactly what turn they were in a certain spot. And I really love the little tokens that have all the dry erase on it that you can use to help like track things and calculate and keep track of the different abilities that you've used to be like, okay, well, I know we've been here and he was here on this turn. And mathing that stuff out and puzzling that stuff out is a lot of fun for me, especially when you're doing it very cooperatively. It's like, okay, you take 2 steps this way and do this, and I'm going to go over here and do that. That stuff is always a blast for me.
And this is a genre of games that I don't actually generally like that much, right? The ones that I've played, I thought sometimes I feel overwrought or there's points of the game where you say, we have no information, right? We're just poking in the dark. And this one gives you information to work with right away, usually, right? Even negative information is information.
Right.
I think the mastermind starts with like 5 different steps around the board,
Right.
or it's a certain number, so you're likely to parse something. And if you get nothing off of your first guess, did you go somewhere where there's a green art asset? No? Well, that actually kind of closes off a good chunk of the map. And so
Right.
you have information to work off of from the beginning. I think that's why this one's more interesting to me.
Yeah, and when you're talking about what you compare it to, what it made you think of, the first thing it made me think of was Whitechapel. You know,
I agree. That's what I said.
It definitely had that feel.
Letters from Whitechapel.
Letters from Whitechapel. I'm sorry, yeah, I'm using some shorthand there. But what Roy mentioned is what I think makes this one stand out a little bit more is just the use of those tokens. Like, I like, because I don't particularly love memory aspects in a lot of games. That's just a personal, taste of mine. And I feel like this does a nice job of. It doesn't completely remove that because that's a finite resource, right?
Right.
Those tokens are a finite resource, and you have to kind of decide which ones are you going to remove. I liked that, and I really liked that. I think the timing aspect of this is much more pronounced than in those other games. Like you mentioned, okay, it's really important to know at what turn they were at a particular point because you can't go back to a spot you went to before. That to me is
That's
the big
huge.
thing. That's the big thing.
Huge.
And it's a good and a bad thing in a way. It's good in the sense that you feel like you have more information if you're the rogue agents. It's bad in that you may have to, as a group, decide we're going to have some limits the amount of time that the rogue agents can puzzle things out.
Right.
Because it can really bog you down. If you're trying to math it out, you maybe could, but that's not going to be fun for a lot of people to sit there for 10 minutes.
This is my biggest problem with the game. I want to say I like the game a lot.
Yeah.
But this happens in a lot of these games. There has to be some sort of time limit
Yeah.
on the agents because you could sit there and puzzle out for a really long time, making the game unfun for pretty much everybody, I think.
Right.
The game, I think, in the rules, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure it said that you could write stuff down. I just literally won't allow that.
No.
Because that will just drag the game out even more. You already have those tokens, use those. But to that end, I feel like the game slightly tilts towards the agents when played as a group. If it's just me versus Mike,
Sure.
It's 1 versus 1. But as a group, Mike could be like, that's this, and Bro will be like, but what about this?
It's like, oh, I
Like,
didn't think about that.
shut up, Roy.
Multiple minds
That's
better
very
than
true.
one.
That's very, very true, yes.
Now, that being in mind, I also want to mention, I said this in the overview, you need to play the base
Yes, the
training
basic.
mission first. That is a huge thing. Training mission is just the can you find me or not.
Right.
Then you add in the immortals and add in some other stuff. There's a lot going on. I taught people straight with that. They were diehard gamers, and I still had to say several times how things worked.
Yes.
Right.
And that's my other small problem with the game. So this shift system, it's called. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
It's essentially a bunch of modules. It's 14 different modules that you're adding in. And I don't know that I'm deliberately, for the purpose of this video, keeping the stuff in those secret, but I don't know that it matters that much.
Right.
I looked at everything and I was like, oh, I spoiled myself. No, it introduces new things, new ways to play, but always helping out the one side.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a bit of a leveling system, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
and that's not a terrible idea,
smart
right?
idea, I think,
the
yeah.
problem is the game already, I thought, got a decent amount of complexity from just playing the full game after the training mission. You start adding in that stuff, the complexity is like,
Yeah.
instead of having one special move, now I have 3. I now have this character who can do this, and there's a lot of different
it's
moving
crazy,
pieces on the
yeah.
board, and that's cool, but you have to build up to that.
Yeah.
And then
Oh, for sure.
that may detract from your experience if I'm like, okay, I really like this game. 3 new people come. I'm like, oh, put away everything else.
Right.
Time for the training mission again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I don't know. I'm still kind of. I think we can agree that this is a fairly unique game.
I think it's
Yes.
unique within the genre. Yeah, I mean, there's several of those hidden movement games out there, but it just comes back to the fact that the person that's running around is trying to get to certain locations, and it's for me, my head was just always about these pictures and these different things in the art that's going on the board. It's like, what are they after? Where have they been? Which ones have we not searched yet? Because a lot of the abilities revolve around that stuff, and it made it feel very unique. And I've played a ton of these different hidden movement games, but this one was set itself apart, you know?
Yeah, I mean, little decisions like the agents can take their turn in any order, right? So this person's set up more on this side of the board. Let's
Yep.
let them go first, or let's let them go last. And
Right.
there's just lots of good decisions to make, and I was always engaged. The only worry that I had was that, and I never played the Mastermind, especially in the training mission. I felt like, oh, the Mastermind doesn't seem to be doing a lot,
Right.
and I did not have any interest in playing them.
I feel like once the immortals are on the table,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah,
more
sure.
going on.
Once you
And
get
so-
into the full game, yes.
And again, there's more. Again, if you feel that way, those modules add in that stuff, and I felt like there was more going on. Mostly, you sit there and sweat, of course.
Oh, for sure. Well, we also sat there and sweat as the agents because
Sure,
we see
sure.
you're getting all these icons. You're getting all these icons. Like, oh man, if he gets just a few more, we're going to lose the game. And that pressure, I feel on both sides, it was pressure, you know?
Yeah, I think there's little clever touches to things you may have seen before in these types of games, just along the lines of one of the actions you can take as a rogue agent is you choose a symbol that's on a tile you're on and say, have you been to one of these?
Right.
And if you have to put a little foot token out. But if you've been to multiple, you get to pick which one of those
Yes.
that you go on. That's a clever little thing. It's because it's like we're getting some information, but we don't necessarily know, everything.
Yeah.
And so it's neat. I think it's familiar, but it has enough to make it stand out in this genre.
All right, Roy, what are your final thoughts?
I think for me, I really like hidden movement games. I think there's a lot of fun to play both sides. I love the puzzling out aspect of one side, but then the other side, you get that angst of like people chasing you down, which is also super exciting as well. For me, it's going to be a 7.5. I enjoyed it. I think it's a fun game, especially if you like hidden movement. I do worry about if you play it a bunch, how complex it'll be overall, but I do think the balancing thing is kind of interesting and unique and can help maybe if you have agents that aren't that strong, you could build up on the other side.
true.
You know?
Chris?
I think it's my position on this panel is the person that doesn't really like hidden movement games that much. But
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, no.
You're playing 3 to mine.
But I'd give this game a 7 because of a lot of the unique things that you talked about, the clever extra mechanisms, and knowing that your first impression based on the training game might be, this is good, but is it actually really that fun? And then playing the full game immediately afterwards, my opinion of it did increase. So I would say don't make too hasty a judgment about it. Make sure to play both the training and then the full.
I'm coming in at 8. I think it's a really, really solid game in this genre, which is a genre that I didn't know that I liked as much, but the more that I've played it, the more that I've come to appreciate the kind of the nuances of this type of a game. And I think that this does some really unique things that make it stand out even more. I think I would choose this over probably any other hidden movement type game right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I disagree with that. It's probably my preferred one. I'm also giving it an 8. It just falls shy of the 8.5
Yeah.
because the game doesn't provide any in-game balance to end at a certain time.
Right.
Sure, I could put a time limit in there, I suppose, but that worries me. I mean, I've been sitting there, I was like, move
Yeah.
when I play, but I worry that someone could sit there and say, oh, I'm going to take 30 minutes on my turn.
Right.
But other than that, the theme is banging. This game looks different than everything else. It's just really, it feels like a breath of fresh air. It
Yeah.
makes me really excited about future games from this company. I know that the author of the comic book was involved, and you can tell.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, like throughout the whole game, there's like hidden messages that are more silly
And
than
it's really
not.
cool how they do even cool things like there's like spot gloss finish on the cover of the box where it's like, oh, there's a skull and stuff.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
interesting,
Hidden
unique
stuff.
touches
Yeah, that's
like that is
true.
cool.
It's
very, very
It's hard to-
clever, unique touches.
If you like tilt her, you can see like a skull behind her head. That's a neat thing. So I'm really excited about this. I could see this going up in the future
I
for
agree.
me.
I agree.
It's definitely one I think that people will be excited to play. And we play a lot of samey games these days. This
This is
was
true.
not one of them.
This is true.
So, alrighty, well there you go. That is Mind Management. Until next time, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Chris Yee.
I'm Roy Kenning.
I'm Mike DeLisio.
Have fun.